Alright, yes, another beginning of the week. It's here. Yes, we say once again, you're welcome to the Daybreak Show on Rock City 101.9 FM here in Abeokuta. This is the voice of the people. Yes, we will begin the program, the first from the angle of politics this morning. Well, there was so much expectation first, when about five political parties, well, some people say four and a half political parties, the half is part of ABGA, and then the Okorocha ABGA, and the other one went the other way. Four or five political parties came together and became the APC. Eventually, yes, created history, winning the election in 2015 by sending out the incumbent at that time, the party that has been in government for over 16 years. Well, there were so much expectations, particularly when the party campaigned and came on the mantra of change. Well, a lot of people placed their hope on the party, on the presidential candidate, a man known to be a no-nonsense person, somebody who many believe is one Nigerian that could be described as incorruptible. Yes, and so far, well, one would also want to say that could be correct because no actual point of corruption can be pinned to him directly so far. So that makes him a little cleaner than many other Nigerians who've been on that seat for so many times. Yes, it was a popular candidate, a popular party, and the election result cannot be disputed. Therefore, the man who was beaten just quietly left the office and accepted the verdict of Nigerians. Well, uh, over 3.5 years into that administration, close to another election, actually the campaign electoral season is on, that party, the change mantra, the person, I'm talking of President Muhammadu Buhari this time, appears to have lost so much ground that there are so many uncertainty about the potency of the party, the change mantra, and the man himself. A lot of calls are therefore coming from different angles. Advice, well, he's not bound to heed to those advice, but will it also be right for anyone to dump those advices coming from different quarters, particularly if you look at the angle, the weight of those who are saying it? Most recent is the Catholic Bishop Conference, who told President Buhari that he must do something fast because he's fast losing his popularity, and that is the point in which we are this morning. President Muhammadu Buhari and the APC losing ground, losing their popularity. Do you think so? What are the indices? What will be the consequences of this on Nigerians, on the party itself? Is it an approval to be from the party when they set up a committee to be headed by one of their very famous sons, Ashwadi Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the Reconciliation Committee? Is that a signal that indeed there is a problem in our party? Come and patch, mend, or clean it up. The approval rating of the current administration. That's what will be on focus on the Citizens Forum this morning. Dele Ayodo is my name.
And I am Toby Joseph. Then I said a lot, but let me quickly provide some figures here, maybe to guide us in our discussion. Don't forget that in the 2015 general elections, we had 68,833,476 registered voters. And of course, before you could be declared the winner of that election, you must win 25% of votes in each of the two-third states, and majority votes needed to win. Well, the turnout in that election was just around 43.65%, talking about 43.65% of these 68.8 million registered voters coming out on election day actually to vote. You had President Muhammadu Buhari of the All Progressives Congress with his running mate, Professor Yemi Shibajo, were squaring up with incumbent President then, Goodluck Jonathan of the PDP, and having his Vice President, Architect Nemadi Sambo. Now, when you look at the vote garnered by these two parties, and of course the two Major contenders. You had President Buhari winning that election with 15,424,921 votes, as against that of Goodluck Jonathan and the PDP, 12,853,162. Now, if you put that into percentage, you see that President Buhari won with 53.96%, while the then president won with 44.96%. Now, when you look at the last approval rating or the approval rating before the 2015 election of President Muhammadu Buhari, he had an approval rating of 89.5%. Now, that also soared when he was sworn in to around 94.5%. That was a very high figure, and that could arguably be the highest approval rating any president could ever garner in Nigeria. But the last approval rating here, as conducted by the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, released in 2017 July, saw that approval rating going to 57%, and that is a bit on the low side. What exactly do you think approval rating will be now in the first quarter of 2018 with this enchantment coming from so many quarters, so many groups, so many sections of the Nigerian society? That is what we're looking at this morning. As Dele said, that question is also very pertinent. Can Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, the national leader of the APC, reconcile all the warring factions in his party to chart a common front? Can they truly unite? If Mr. President decides to recontest, will it translate to victory for him and his party? Will Nigerians actually repose their confidence once again in a man that they feel has not done too well? That is what we're looking at this morning. We have someone very qualified to look at this issue, a friend of the house, of course, a veteran himself in this field, Dr. Jendele Hungbo. You're welcome once again.
Thank you very much, Toby.
Generally, first, those noise. Okay, sorry. Let me just put it in quote. Noise, not noise. Really, that's the position and opinion of those who are coming out
As those agitations.
The agitations are how do you want to analyze it, place it in terms of what you are looking at, the man Buhari before 2015 and immediately after that May 29 swearing?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think when you talk about the series of concerns that people have raised about President Buhari's performance and whether it is desirable to have him take part in the forthcoming elections, you should give it to those who have those opinions in the first instance. Because whether you approve of someone or not is usually based on certain parameters. You want to look at what the promise was at the inception of the administration, and then so far how much mileage has been covered in terms of getting it right, especially in the critical sectors which were, of course, identified by President Buhari and his own political party as well. Those were the critical sectors with which they campaigned before they won that election. In 2015, there were certain issues that Nigerians were very passionate about. One of those issues would have to do with the structure of the country itself. Before 2015, remember that President Jonathan had put in place a whole lot of program to attempt to tinker with the structure. I don't want to say completely restructure Nigeria, but there was this confab in Abuja. And then certain recommendations were made as to how we should proceed as a nation. The APC saw the advantage in that and capitalized on it, and then made it look a little bit bigger, a little bit more robust by talking about issues of restructure. Oh, when we come in, we're going to restructure. That was one point. Another thing was that the power sector was one of the major sectors that had held this country back for so long. And people saw a lot of promise in that regard. There was a problem, within 6 months, were going to achieve some relative stability in the power sector. So there were high expectations there. The question of job creation was another issue. I mean, they saw that one of the critical problems that we had, especially confronting the youth of the country, was the issue of the lack of jobs. And there was a lot of opportunities to campaign with questions of jobs. We will create so many number of jobs within a particular period. They even went as far as talking about a welfareist program that will give direct cash, which which for me was an error in the first instance, that would give direct cash to people,
to jobless
people.
graduates.
Yeah, so those were some of the things. They campaigned with agriculture. They campaigned with one major thing: corruption. I mean, we shouldn't forget that, because this was a government that was coming in and was thinking that, oh yeah, there's too much corruption in the land. People were getting away with blue murder. Nothing was happening to them, and that was what brought the mantra of change. That we're going to change the entire system. But coming 3 years after, the question we then need to ask: have we seen the change, or has that change been effective? So it is then on that basis that people who feel so disenchanted, or who might have been disappointed, whose expectations have not been met, are now beginning to say, hey, hold it here. Is this how we're going to continue for 8 years? That is, if President Buhari is the only material that the APC has got to offer, it means he's going to contest again in 2019. Of course, don't get me wrong, he has a right to contest. The Constitution allows the man to contest 2 terms. So, if all other factors on ground are okay for him to contest, why not? If his political party believes that that is the best material that they have got to offer Nigerians, why not?
No, we're actually not looking at...
No, wait, Dele, I know where you're going, okay? I know, but let me just finish this point. The critical factor then is, what alternatives are there within the APC itself, and then outside of the APC? Because democracy is, after all, a matter of choice. But the alternatives must be there for you to be able to make those different choices.
Well, again, let me just say it. The question of whether he should contest or not should be left for him. That's not the issue. He has the right to heed to the advice. He had the right to dump the advice, and of course, he's qualified by our constitution to contest, to re-contest. So that's nothing. But contesting has to do with your popularity.
Definitely.
You saw those figures dropping from almost, that's the highest by any Nigerian leader. It has dropped by almost half of it. If not unlikely that it will have further dropped if you take the data for the first quarter of the year, judging from all the citations I've shared, calls, and to some Nigerians, rightly or wrongly, will say all those promises you mentioned were never met. Even the corruption, people still argue that they are not satisfied with the way corruption is being fought. It's been replaced by nepotism and other things. Now, but if you look at the issues within the political party itself, there are top members of the political party who have accused the president of not doing anything to strengthen the party. And that perhaps led to the inauguration of the Bola Ahmed Tinubu committee. Almost all the states, particularly in the south, there are issues within the party. So if one wants to judge this, because these are the leaders of the party are the ones who gather the support for the party, and everybody wants to work a different direction. Is this not an indicator that the APC itself has failed Nigerians?
Well, I would not say categorically that the APC has failed Nigerians, because we need to put this in context. Against what background did we find ourselves in the ship or in the boat of the APC? Also, we also need to look at the kind of politics that goes on in the country, and the kind of politics that goes on even within the APC itself. I mean, it's not to say that the APC is a perfect political party, no. Because don't forget that the APC is an amalgamation of all kinds of political interests, political characters, who came together to form this political party simply because they wanted to wrestle power from the PDP. That's what I see. So it was not a party that was completely grounded in an ideological foundation that is enough to hold every member to account on the basis of the principles of a political organization. Now, having said that, we shouldn't isolate President Buhari too much when you talk about the question of his popularity rating, because his popularity rating would be a function of so many factors, both within and outside his political party. Has he been able to find colleagues or fellow politicians or fellow public office holders with whom to work to show up his popularity? Because if you're talking of a drop, look at 89.5 in 2015, and in less than 3 years, you're coming down to 50. I mean, it's like you're coming down from 90 to 50. You're losing almost like 40% popularity rating within a period of 3 years. It hardly happens anywhere. Because, I mean, when Tobi started, Tobi was talking about how incredible it sounded for somebody to come into office with a popularity rating of almost 90%. Yeah. Are you getting my point? It is also equally incredible that somebody loses 40% of credibility within a period of time, and it is not as if that 40% can be tied to any serious criminal offenses that have been committed by that individual. It's not as if as an individual the president has been found guilty of any. So
apparently that means, like you said, the problem has to do with his party, exactly, and then his administration, his party, government.
Yes, the government, the administration, and I think this is one lesson for us as Nigerians. When we look at political structures, we often focus too much on the presidency. And it's almost the same thing that is probably going to repeat itself in 2019 if we are not careful, because what everybody is interested in is who becomes president. In the states, we are always just interested in who becomes governor. In the local governments, we are interested in who becomes chairman of the local government. We are not interested in the most crucial aspect, which is the parliamentary aspect of the election. Because if, for example, the zeal with which President Buhari took off, if the National Assembly had taken off also with the same zeal, and they were in accord with him on 1, fighting corruption, 2, creating jobs, 3, cutting cost of governance, we probably would have moved a little bit further than we have.
So some members of his party
and his popularity rating will probably have been better than the 57%.
Some members of his party, senior members of his party, and even those outside the party, for instance, former Governor Lamido, have also accused the president directly of being the problem in the National Assembly because he has refused to not only play politics, but give other members of the caucus direction on what to do. The emergence of Bukola Saraki, which till today still remains an albatross within the party, keep following them issues. That's why the National Assembly, the legislative arm will disagree with the executive arm, simply because of this one wrong step from the beginning. So how will he not be a part of the problem?
If you call it one wrong step from the beginning, the other question we should ask is, which should be supreme? Personal interest or party interest? Now, we have seen instances where people think, oh, in the interest of the party, for the party to make progress, let me step aside. But in Nigeria, that becomes a very difficult decision for our politicians to take, maybe because of the kind of situations that encumber them. Now, one good thing that I want you to always think about, or we should always think about, is that the APC as a political party and President Buhari himself as an individual have not completely made use of what I call the make me shine scenarios that they found when they came into office. The make me shine scenarios will come from the issue of fighting corruption in such a way that even a common man on the street will be able to say, oh no, this government is fighting corruption.
Now, Dr. Jendele, let me quickly step in here.
Yeah.
Now, when we look at this July 2017 approval rating for President Buhari, and we look at the growing disenchantment and calls for him not to even seek re-election in 2019, one is tempted to think that is this not a cooked up figure or a cooked up loss of popularity by the politicians and being amplified by the media first, I want your opinion on that.
Yeah.
And secondly,
Yeah.
is it true that the president has lost all the goodwill that he brought into office and this popularity? And then if he seeks re-election in 2019, he's going to be disgraced, as some have made us to believe?
No, I don't think. Yeah, okay. Now, first of all, let me tell you that I do not think that if he seeks re-election in 2019, I don't think he's going to be disgraced, because that would be based on several factors. But let's come to the point of whether the question of popularity rating is a cooked up thing or it's not a cooked up thing. I mean, I don't think it's a cooked up thing. I do not think so. I do not have any evidence to argue that way. But the point is this: can we trust the figures coming from the CDD? I mean, what pedigree has the CDD got to give us poll figures that we can use to benchmark our decisions? The Center for Democracy and Development, I've followed them a little bit for some time now.
But this CDD gave us
don't worry.
The pre-election figure was
yes,
right.
It was right
that he is on the heights and with the popular person.
They gave us the figures for the pre-election.
Yes.
And then the figures came to pass.
They were correct figures.
They were correct figures. And so far, I still do not have any evidence to believe that they've been bought over by anybody. So unless someone is going to tell me that, oh yeah, or we have evidence that they've been bought over, if that happens, we will see in the coming elections. They are saying his popularity is low. But again, don't also forget, if you follow the media, I'll come back to the question of the media, which is also which perhaps should take a whole day to discuss, because the media is also in a way culpable in the way things have happened, especially in the last 3 years. We've seen a lightly divided media, which does not augur well for
but in any advanced world, we cannot have all the media center in this. There's always some to the left, some to the right, everywhere in the world.
Of course, but let me ask you this question. The media, as they are structured in Nigeria today, can you identify the rightist media and the leftist media?
Well, maybe that's the problem, because elsewhere, clearly you know
exactly
where this media stands.
Where they stand. And, so let's not debate that today, because it will take a lot of time.
Yes, it will.
Okay. It's a topic on
its own.
Particularly when it's our environment.
Exactly. But you see, what I want you to look at is that, as Tobi was asking, when you talk about even this same popularity rating, it is problematic in a way, not in the way of whether it was done by CDD or whether they've been compromised or not, but in the way of the different perceptions of the president that you will expect from the different sections of the country.
Yeah.
Okay? We are not a unified country. I mean, the time they were talking about, oh, this man is not popular, he went to somewhere in the north, and it was, if you drop a pin, the pin would hang on somebody's neck. Simply, and that people were using that to say, hey, see this man that you're saying is not popular.
Even the vice president went to that same state, and
exactly.
he was also greeted with that.
And was also greeted with that kind of rousing welcome and that kind of crowd. So we haven't probably reached a place or a state where we can categorically say that no, if this man contests is going to lose, or whether if he contests is going to be disgraced. That, because whether he's going to win or not will be dependent on several factors. What happens between now and 2019? What happens
to the other political parties?
Exactly. Look at the third force that is coming up. What happens within the third force?
And the enlightenment
the level of enlightenment within the voters and things like that.
Now that takes me to run. You need to tell me, as some have said, that is going to be, especially if you're on social media, you begin to read all this and you begin to wonder. Some would tell you as if they've seen it in one white calabash somewhere, that the president is going to be disgraced, he's going to go back to his cows in Daura, he's going home in 2019, Nigerians will stamp him out. That is almost looking like the preponderance of opinion. Now, that is one. Dele mentioned something earlier. Now, if you look at this, going to some state and get a rousing welcome, Dele mentioned the word noise. Is it that all these things we've been hearing are nothing but noises from politicians or interested parties?
Yeah, I think if you look at the political landscape in Nigeria, there's something that we are still very, very much obsessed with. I don't want to call it noise, because public debate is usually part of the democratic process. But we are not often able to coalesce our arguments, our disenchantments into well-channeled and well-articulated debates that can show us direction. And added to that is a question of the failure of succession planning over the years. And that is one major problem that I see even with the ruling APC. You don't get stuck with one individual in a political party. It is only where you are bereft of ideas or bereft of intelligent people that you can believe that, oh, the only thing that it's appearing now that perhaps the APC is just throwing its hands in the air. The only thing we can offer people in 2019 is APC. What if the man himself comes up to say, sorry, I'm not interested? Because we can see that kind of scenario. So every political party needs succession planning. You should have at least at every point in time, especially in a troubled country like Nigeria, 4 presidential materials. If A refuses, we go to B. If B has a problem, we go and take C. So at every particular point in time, we should have a succession plan. So
some people will say Mugabe's Zimbabwe even can point to some people and say these are people that are likely to succeed.
These are presidential materials. Even when we knew that Mugabe wasn't going nowhere.
So they were still pointing to some people and saying these are that. Exactly. All right, yes, Daybreak Show Citizens Forum, Rock City 101.9 FM this morning with Dr. Jendele Hungbo. We are looking at trying to see how popular the president is coming from the different advice positions of very powerful Nigerians, really, who you cannot actually waive their talks, their papers, letters. So we just our finger and say no, they are not talking rightly. The Catholic Bishop Conference of Nigeria also added their voice, telling the president last week that you have lost that goodwill.
Tunde Kafidipe, the simple difference between now and 2015 elections was that economic indices on paper were positive and impacted on people's livelihood. But now it's the opposite. That alone has manifested into anger and bitterness on the part of the citizenry. This can be ignored. Dr. Dele, do you agree with this?
Well, to some extent, yes. I'd say that's a point to reckon with. But again, what were those problems that led to those changes in the economic indices? But don't also forget that there was a period of recession, and we were also declared officially out of recession. And this is where every government or every developing country needs an economic engineering program that meets the needs of the people, so that beyond what you have on paper, the people can themselves say, we feel more comfortable than we were last year, or we feel more comfortable than we were 3 years ago. We feel more comfortable than, and it's about creating value chains within the economy that allows people to live a better life.
All right. Any other one? No. All right. You can send your messages to 32120, or you have to do to type rock, give a space, type.
That's his opinion, but I don't think that's completely correct. We cannot say we are completely joyless. Don't forget, at some point, Nigerians were adjudged to be the happiest people in the world, though that could also be contested in several ways. But the question you need to ask is, do we have, for example, the same level of impunity that we had before 2015? We had a semblance of change in that regard for some time before we began to talk about nepotism in appointments. We began to talk about slapping people on the wrist when they misbehave and things like that. And these are areas where I think the president needs to be helped. Usually, you don't leave statecraft to one man, to one individual. Countries that have left statecraft to one individual have always regretted. And so, if we are talking about the president's popularity rating, and we are thinking that because we're saying we are joyless now, people are poorer than they were, that can still be argued. Because we need to think about, when we talk about poverty, poverty is a whole lot of gamut of things that you need to look at against the national poverty level or the individual poverty level. And what I tell people often is that the problem we have in Nigeria is that in Nigeria, individuals are rich and the country is poor. In other climes where we talk about developed economies, the countries are rich, the people are poor. You understand? So, but whether they are poorer than us does not matter. What matters is that in certain cases, they live a better life. So, but in Nigeria, we usually take poverty to mean how much you have in your pocket.
In your pocket, yes.
It's more than that. And that's why politicians have been able to deceive us for so long. Because you believe in raw cash. So when the time comes, they can fly a few words of notes in your face and go away with the votes, and then try with your lives thereafter.
Now, Dr. Jendele, let us go into the politics of all this. Some of the mistakes, alleged mistakes that some have said Mr. President made when he came into power. Some have said that the Asiwaju Bola Tinubu bloc of the APC, who have been entrusted with leadership and governance in Lagos State and have a model of achieving results, were sidelined in that party, and that has affected the performance of the Buhari administration. Do you agree with this kind of thing?
Yeah, I think I would not even call it the Asiwaju model. You get the point. I think the model of the progressives,
the ACN political party, which was the most tested,
from AD to ACN,
which was the most tested of all the parties that merged.
All the parties that merged. The model had always been that the party leadership will be different from the governance leadership. Okay, so what the expectation was that the party would have a national party leader and have a president at the national level, and then at the state level, you would have your governor running the government. And then you have the party leader at the state level. It's percolated all levels of government, up to the local government, up to the ward level. So if you were a councillor, you still had a leader that you would listen to in your ward. And then your leader at the ward level would meet with leaders at the structures at the next level. And then they took decisions that were important for the progress of the party and for the popularity of the party and its representatives, because the president would then be a representative of the party, the governor would be representative at the state level, and at the parliamentary levels, you had all those things. So, I mean, it is always better to have a political party that has its leadership separate from the governance leadership or from the political leaders who have emerged through votes to serve the people. But you see, the tragedy we have in Nigeria is that somehow the PDP in these 16 years brought this new model of the president is the leader of the party in the country, the governor is the leader of the party in the state, so the chairman in the local government also believes that he's the leader of the party in the local government. So why would the councillor not also believe that he's the leader of the party in the ward? That for me was a strange importation into progressive politics, which I did not expect the APC to buy. But it appears, in a way, that if, Tobi is talking about sidelining Tinubu or sidelining anybody, perhaps. But again, don't forget that at the national level, Tinubu was not even the party leader. It was Akonde. Or let's say it is Akonde, because I have not heard that Akonde has been relieved of the national leadership. So, those are things we need to look at. Why are the progressives dumping the model that could serve them better, as it has done in Lagos? Because, if you are using the Lagos example, I would recommend that to anybody. Because the Lagos politics is being dealt with by someone. You
are the one who talked about individual
and
then the succession plan.
The succession plan,
Is it actually true that Tinubu was sidelined? We had Fayemi.
Oh, you mean in Lagos or at national?
I'm talking of APC. Okay. Was Tinubu sidelined in APC after government was formed? We have Fayemi, we have Fashola. Look at board appointments. There are several of his so-called boys. Fowler is there. Femi Ojudu is there. What's his name? So many. You know what of the so-called boys.
And even the vice president.
The vice president. When you talk about, is it really true that he's sidelined?
I'm not going to give you a yes or no answer to that. Because when you talk about politics, politicians are very clever with language. But what exactly can we see in terms of, perhaps the reasons why people were using the word sideline, which I would not like to use anyway, is because of what happened at the National Assembly level. When people thought that the Tinubu bloc or camp in the party had other candidates who they wanted to emerge as leadership of the National Assembly, which did not happen. All these political games, we all know. But the point is, we should be able to rise above the level of thinking that, oh, if, I mean, your relevance in a political party is based on how many of quote and unquote your boys you have in office.
there.
Yes, the larger interest of the party should be preeminent in everybody's mind. That is number one. Number two, the common interest and larger interest of the entire country, how we all make progress together as one united country, should also be paramount in our minds. And where that clashes with personal interest, I think national interest and in some instances party interest should take precedence.
All right, if you're just joining us this morning, well, what we're looking at this morning has to do with the approval and popularity rating of President Muhammadu Buhari. A lot of people have called on Mr. President not to seek re-election in 2019. Well, the Catholic bishops also met with Mr. President last week, telling him that he has actually lost grounds, especially when it comes to his goodwill that took him to power in 2015. We have at the studio Dr. Jendele Hungbo. You can keep sending your messages or questions as it were to 32120. You have to type rock, level space, type your message, and include your name. Tweet at us at Rock City FM. That's our Twitter handle, or Rock City FM 101.9 is our Facebook page.
Dr. Jendele, quickly before we
Because of our time,
okay.
We have some commercials to run, and of course, that will take us to 10 for the national news. After that, we'll come back and continue our discussion. Stay with us.
Yes, don't worry about the future. Just ensure that you do something concrete, positive about the future. Yes, sir, you're welcome back. Daybreak Show on Rock City 101.9 FM Citizens Forum. This morning we are looking at the position of the President Muhammadu Buhari, his political party, or Progressive Congress, and their popularity as we approach 2019 election. Today is the 12th day of February. That means we only have about 12 months, 4 days to the first election. And in election, that is always just to say, when you say 12 months, that's about 12 days. Because already you must begin to think and take decisions before that day. So we are looking at the popularity of the president and its political party. You heard the statistics we gave immediately after the election. His popularity, according to the CDD, Center for Democratic Development, rose to over 90%, but at the last quarter of 2017, it fell to about 54. That's almost half of his approval rating. Is this important? Does it really matter? Popularity rating in Nigeria's political arena. Dr. Jendele Hungbo is our guest. Straight on, we will let you participate in the discussion. That is, those of you who want to use the telephone, we'll be welcoming your tweets and, of course, messages on the short code 08098687 and 0909146967. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Abdul Gafar. All right, go ahead, Abdul Gafar.
Let's add one call to it. Move away to get to check the messages and get reactions. Hello, good morning, morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hello. All right, thank you.
All right, let me quickly add these short good messages and then we allow our guests to react to the contributions of our callers and, of course, our listeners. Abdurrashid Akela sent in this one. I have to appreciate the guest in the house. So we focus so much on presidency, not considering that other arms of government are also necessary. We expect a miracle, forgetting where we are coming from. Thank God APC is not listening to me by going back to Asiwaju Bola Tinubu. He owns the progressive agenda because he's an institution. All right, that's Abdul Rashid. Okay, now, generally, there was a sudden economic progression in the nation during a short period that Osinbajo acted as president. The tempo went down when Buhari came back. Can we say it's PNB's health issue that was the major cause? Also, cabals are at play for selfish reasons. Tunde Amola is asking that question. Salarin of Bola Tinubu, who led opposition for 16 years to wrestle power for APC, is responsible for the fate of the ruling government. Simple. Rashid Afolabi sent that message. Oburu P. from Million says the era of politicians sharing our monies with Ghana must go bags is gone. PNB only need to be open and monitor its cabinet members. That's all. And this one says, President of all presidents, nobody can stop Mr. President still in the wake of his ratings in Benue, Taraba, Kaduna, and Ogo Rivers, Ekiti, in the light of the senseless killings by the headsmen in Nigeria. We now know better. Eric Iwemi from Ilimeron sent in that one. Neither regional leader nor OBJ can stop me from voting for PNB if he decides to run. Salaki and Co should go away. Ade from Elega sent in that message. All right, let's quickly have your reactions before we turn the tweet.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I think the responses, I mean, from the callers have been so diverse, and I think they also speak to some of the points that we have made. Caller talks about rating not being a guide. Well, I'll say yes and no. Someone might get a rating, and at the end of the day, the results you get at the polls might be different from the what the rating projects. But by and large, ratings are important simply because they serve you as a preparatory material for you to know what to look at, what areas to think of to show up your popularity. I do not expect that any rating at this moment will tell Buhari that he's 100% popular among the voters or that is among Nigerians. Well, Kola talks about the governors, and I think that's a very crucial thing. There's nothing you can achieve without the support of the governors, because the governors hold a lot of powers when you talk about Nigerian politics. Benson Adiyon talks about the president being very slow. Well, a lot of people have had that perception. Also, the fact that he didn't appoint ministers early enough, 6 months into the government, before he did that, kind of validates Benson's concern. And Benson is also worried about the cabal. Yes, everybody talks about this cabal. But I think what is more important is that no cabal will be powerful in a country where the system runs well. And that's when we talk about institutions. When your institutions are properly built and your institutions are properly put in place, there's nobody who can call himself or herself a cabal and come in to remove. I mean, you can imagine the United States, for example. Will you talk about the cabal when you talk about the justice system? Or are you going to talk about the cabal when you talk about the presidency? Or are you going to talk about the cabal when you talk about the American Senate? It is not possible because the institutions are there to take care of issues. I think we have overburdened the executive in Nigeria too much. We expect almost everything to be done by executive fiat. That doesn't work anywhere. It doesn't bring development. When you have systems laid down and institutions are there to implement the systems, you will not have any cabal hijacking any government. Abdul Ghaffar talks about the president or the government being arrogant at the onset. He talks about social media gagging, and I think that's something that the media team of the president can handle. Dr. Com talks about his lack of belief in the reckoning of work done by the ratings by the Center for Democracy and Development. Yeah, I mean, there are different centers that are different organizations that do polls and ratings all over the world. It is not in all cases that their polls are 100% foolproof or 100% correct. But again, these polls are important because they signpost areas where we need to look at for further development. Tony Amolalu talks about the cabal again, and I think the system, if the system runs well, that will be taken care of. Eric talks about the problem with herdsmen, and I think that's one major thing that might contribute, especially when we when we get the rating for the first quarter of 2018, the herdsmen issue will detract a lot from the popularity of the president because almost everybody believes that this has not been handled well. And again, the issue is in a democracy or anywhere in the world, lawyers will tell you that justice must not only be done, but it must be seen to have been done. And that's the problem with the herdsmen issue. I mean, if you're talking about the laws are clear on criminality. So if a criminal offense has been committed by anyone, whether the man is a butcher or a herdsman or a taxi driver, does not matter. Let the full wrath of the law be. If that is the only thing that a government can hand over to us, the supremacy of the law, we should be able to get that. So I think we should take that seriously. Ade well said nobody can stop him from voting for Buhari in 2015 or 2019. I mean that's his right to enjoy it.
Messages more.
Let's go through the tweets now. We have a lot of them here. Billionaire Jisha first says, it's farewell to APC. Buhari is old to lead this great nation. The French president is 40 years old. The Austrian leader is 31 years old. The New Zealand president, who is a lady, is 37 years old. Nigerians demand a visionary and purpose-driven leader, 45 years old, that will give Nigerians hope, like Papa Awolowo, the great and late sage. Adedayo Adeyemi says the rating is low and there is 75% assurance he will be disgraced in 2019. To the Kafidikwe once again, the third force emergence should not be ignored. If it doesn't metamorphose into a political party before the general elections, it could still sway perceptions against the ruling party. And DECO was not a political party, and it played a major role before the 1993 elections. Kole Gab says all that this government is doing is making Nigerians lawless the more. This government has no miracle to perform anymore. It's too late. Adedayo Adeyemi once again, when they were campaigning in 2015 on eradication of corruption, I thought policemen extortion would disappear, but that never happened. Kole Gab says it is a pity that the president chose his cabinet without knowing the people. They are the ones that dragged him into all this nonsense. Ozibeke says he has lost all the goodwill that brought him in office. Adedayo Adeyemi once again says we have decided never to vote any grandpa come 2019. Nigerians must port to digital from analog leadership. God bless Work City FM. Baba T says 1. Inasmuch as I voted for the APC in 2015, I've been disappointed in various areas by the APC and the federal government. There seems not to be a correlation between the party and the government. The party promised A and the federal government told Nigerians they said B. difference in opinion and manifesto. Two, PMP is trying its best, no doubt, but this country is so peculiar, too difficult to rule and govern. It's just unfortunate that it's about a year to election and there's no strong opposition to challenge PMP, no party to challenge the APC. Three, going by all the prospective challenger of PMB in 2019, Atiku and the rest, I don't see them as a match. He's stronger than them all, going by the antecedents. As PMB's popularity reduced, yes, but yet he seems to be the best option Nigerians have in 2019. Number four, Dr. Jendele, I want you to mention to Nigerians three strong prospective options that we have that can challenge PMB, I mean presidential candidates. Mawati tweeted all that. Today, Kafidikwe once again says, third force, okay, you tweeted that twice. Ismail Oloyede says, whether or not President Buhari has lost his credibility or popularity based on the rating of CGDD statistics or the letters written by Generals Obasanjo and Babangida is on one side. The reality of what will happen in 2019 is another thing. There is simply no alternative to PMB. Yemi Phillips Da Vinci says, I campaigned and voted for President Buhari in 2007, 2011, and 2015. I will not be doing so in 2019. Why? Because the factors that have caused his popularity to shrink has also caused me to lose faith in him. What has caused many of us to be disenchanted with President Buhari is merely his I don't care attitude to governance and his teleguiding by his kitchen cabinet. Why has President Buhari not visited Benue or other flashpoints of herdsmen crisis? What exactly did he spend taxpayers' money in, treating for months abroad? And what happens to an average man on the street if he has such ailments? What has made most Southerners who broke their voting pattern for him in 2015 become disenchanted with President Buhari is his perceived nepotism and antagonistic stance to restructuring. Nobody can eat GDP. The Buhari that was a tiger in opposition has become a docile cat in power. Why are people accused of corruption in his administration always getting benefit of the doubt, which conviction is sealed in the ongoing anti-corruption fight? These are tweets from Yemi Phillips Da Vinci. Ismail Oloyede once again says, good day, Dr. Jendele Hungbo, a very cultured and veteran broadcaster. Anyway, I think the media must learn to be very cautious in their use of words. The APC never mentioned the word restructuring in its manifesto, not to talk of promising same. APC only promised true federalism. All right, those are the tweets we have.
True federalism, restructure.
Those are very buzzwords in the polity now. But I think we have too many tweets and messages, but I think we'll just react to a few of them. And I'm interested in what Adisha first said. He thinks Buhari is too old, and that's been re-echoed by a few people too. I don't want to say too old, but I think Buhari is very old. It's actually a national tragedy that we find ourselves, a population of 180 million, we find ourselves with only one alternative who is 74 years old. That is a problem that we must all take responsibility for. That also boils down to the question of succession planning we were talking about. Right from 1999, when Obasanjo came into office, every political party was supposed to be looking for younger, virile, more articulate and active leadership at all levels. Leaders don't just happen on countries. Leaders are consciously chosen and groomed. So we have not groomed succession, and we should all blame ourselves for that. That's not the fault of Buhari that is 74 years old and is the only person we can find.
Daniel, before you go on, let's expand this a little to this because I think one of the callers, Gafar, and there were also tweets on it talking about the young ones, the age, and then we look at this not too young to run phrase, going on. It's easier for people to compare other lands with Nigeria, leaving out the peculiarity, the culture, and our own uniqueness in terms of the way we do it. People will talk about Macron. Macron did just, like you said, just appear on the national stage. He served in government before then, and all the other names, there are people who are making way. Do you think this not young dragon, this idea of a young king, is it something that can mature very soon in the Nigerian political field?
Yeah, it can mature, but whether it's going to mature very soon will then depend on how you define your very soon. It's going to take some
Let's say
time.
the next two elections or three elections.
Oh, when the next two elections feasible, but I think what will be more feasible will not be to think of next election, next election, next election. What will be more feasible is to come up with, and this is where institutions, schools, and all those things have a critical role to play. And civil society too would have a critical role to play here. And that role would be to say, we want to begin to groom young leadership. And young leadership is going to start from your schools. I mean, when we talk about Macron, Macron didn't just wake up, like you said, and say, oh, I want to become a leader. No. I mean, we've seen countries where conscious effort is made
Or
to
neither
go
was he pushed by his age mate
exactly.
and said, go and represent
Go and
us.
represent us. No, because I mean, you have to begin to identify leadership qualities in young people and begin to encourage them. I mean, you look around here. I don't want to start mentioning names, but you see young people who are very vibrant in some of these political parties. But the belief is that you have to go and stay, go and learn, go and wait for your turn.
It is what the leaders
It
say.
is what the leaders say. The old man must bring you. And again, our leaders are also making one error. I've also seen something in Nigeria that every politician now wants to bring his own children, direct children, into politics, whether they have the flair for leadership or whether they don't have the flair for leadership. So that's another problem. So we need to be sincere about these things, and we need to be sincere about grooming young leadership.
All right, some callers are already standing. Let's add more calls. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you too. All right, next call. Hello, somebody. Good morning.
All right, Mr. Mustafa.
All right.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, sir.
All right, just one call. We then check the messages and the tweet. Hello.
From Professor Bolaji. Yes, PAB plus APC have disappointed Nigerians. Do we really have better alternatives? PDP or third force? We must decide that for ourselves. Okay. These are short messages. A very unfortunate APC as a ruling party turned opposition to themselves, drawing back governance and making masses to suffer. How can a sitting Senate president or speaker of rep numbers 3 and 4 citizens in the government be criticizing the same governments they are governing together publicly, ditto to other government officials, governors countering one another, and actions on sensitive national issues publicly in the same political ruling party? That's a very big problem. And they sent in that one. Good morning. The truth is, the government at all levels lacks sincerity to change the lots of well-meaning Nigerians. The president is popular on a negative trend. Daniel from Sabo sent in that one. Dr. Hungbo, do you share the thought that Buhari in Kaki is different from President Buhari in Agbada? Some have argued that it was late Tunde Ejiofor that made his military government popular, apart from his personal anti-corruption uprightness. Do you also agree that Buhari's kitchen cabinet is not doing enough to add value to his administration? Kennedy from Ramdal sent in that one. Good morning. Please go to market, Dele and Tobi, to hear from the market men and women, and let's wait and see. 2019 we judge. May we all witness it in Jesus' name. Kolawole Joseph sent in that one. PMB is a man of high integrity. Nigerians need to be patient and considerate. Buhari is correcting mistakes and bad governance of past leaders. In the next election, Buhari is my man. Ayodo from Abeokuta North sent in that message. What about the infrastructure that the present government embarked on? Majority of Nigerian leaders during hate campaign were not allowed to loot as they used to. Why will all intellectual Nigerians believe the assertion? What is the practical solutions to the challenges OBJ highlighted in his letter? God bless Nigeria. Honorable Mankot from Funab sent me that one. Ratings or not, the government of APC needs to improve on living standards of the people. Secondly, I don't expect anybody under the monthly allowance of APC to speak evil. But remember that the market women depend on neglected workers and pensioners to survive. Go to markets and ask. Jendele Hungbo from Elega sent in that one. Alright, we have comments on our Facebook page actually. Uh, okay, I guess this has refused to. Okay, this one says to be sincere with ourselves, we don't like anything in this country. All what is happening to this nation is caused by our leaders looting our money and our resources to foreign countries, which is not good at all. Let me tell you that this is the ability to maintain our godly resource that we have is what we need. God bless Nigeria. All right.
Okay, Dr. Jendele.
Yeah, well, thank you. For Tawa anybody who said we'll have a divided country in 2019. I pray that doesn't happen. We should all pray for a united country. If we need to go our separate ways, that shouldn't come during elections because that could be chaotic. We could all sit down and talk about how we move forward, either as one country or as whatever structure we want to adopt henceforth. Now, Olanima Sham also talks about confusion, and well, that's is true. that there's some level of confusion among even politicians now. If we are almost a year close to election, and then there are rumors even about the possibility of even the Senate president going to another political party or not being at ease with his own political party. That's some level of confusion. That can also create confusion for the electorate, like I said. So I agree with him. Mustafa and Kayode talk about 1984 and now, the Buhari of 1984 and the Buhari of today. If people are saying that it was General Diagmo then, today Diagmo, who did much of the work for Buhari, of course, I think that there's also an opportunity for Buhari to also allow, for example, Professor Osinbajo, who has also shown some level of spark in leadership, to assist him in running this government. But again, the problem we have is that we are too primordial and we are too territorial and provincial when it comes to politics. So it's becoming very difficult for us to get the best out of both of them as a joint presidency of Buhari and Osinbajo. So if we had gone the way, maybe because that was a military order, it was easier for them to do it that way. So I think we have not allowed Osinbajo to do enough as much as his capacity will allow him to do. Alhaji Power says the parties are the same. Well, he's entitled to that opinion. I also think so a little bit. It looks like the political parties are becoming a union of strange bedfellows. Sincerity and change of orientation, we need that for things to change. And so the popularity of Buhari or that of the APC would, or subsequently, would depend on what happens between now and when the campaign starts.
Let's also have you speak on one of the messages that says it's unfortunate that there's no opposition to Buhari, neither do we have any opposition
that's Professor Bola's
yes,
Professor Bola's contribution. It's unfortunate actually. What has the PDP been doing in the last 3 years? It's unfortunate that we've had a PDP that's been bickering, because the PDP is the one that has the greatest opportunity to rise to the challenge of the loss of power.
So are you saying that the PDP has not benefited from this so-called loss of popularity?
No, they have not. Because instead of benefiting from this, the PDP has also been busy fighting with its own ranks. Now, another question is, Nigeria is not yet a two-party system. We run a multi-party system. The question you then ask is, what has happened to the other political parties? If the PDP is not taking advantage of what is happening in the APC, why are the other political parties not rising to the challenge? Now, I know that the third force is coming up now, but again, that is still also very hazy. So we don't know which way to go. And I think it's correct to say yes. For now, we do not have it, but that doesn't mean that alternatives might still not emerge before the elections.
Okay, let's round it up with the messages. Do you have any?
Okay.
On tweet.
Show. Godwin actually says, "Good morning to you. It is true that PMB should step down now because he has failed to redeem his pledge that he made during his campaign. One, he promised to tackle insecurity of this nation. Two, for up to 3 months now, there is fuel scarcity, and our president cannot solve this problem, even though he positioned himself as a petroleum minister. Not quite good. He should step down from his position. Ordinary citizens of this country have the money to buy what he needs, and he cannot find it. And we call ourselves citizens of this nation. I can assure you that the citizens of this nation know themselves, because they're the ones that are entitled to all the necessities of this nation. Even on education, PMB has failed. Anyway, we all ask for change, and there will be another change come next year." All right, that's the last message we have here.
All right,
Dr. Jendele, your final take. 2019 electioneering and campaigns will soon start. Is there any hope that these politicians, even those in the APC, will get their act together? Is there anything miraculous that Mr. President can do to actually show up his goodwill, popularity, and of course repose his confidence in the people?
I think two things, just quickly. First and foremost, the president and the political party, they need to do a kind of self-introspection. They need to sit down and look at where they have disappointed the people and see where certain things can be retrieved. That's number one. Number two, the president's media team. It's one of the most horrible media teams I've ever seen in recent times. The media team needs to come together. I mean, you see that there's no synergy anyway. Additional says something, Shehu Garuba says another thing. Somebody comes in the middle, he says, I mean, there's no proper structure. Let's know who exactly is the president's spokesman. One top spokesman who takes charge and leads a team to inform the people. You see that there's a lot of misinformation in the land. That's number one. There's also a lot of propaganda going on that is not true. I mean, especially with the use of social media, the pervasiveness of social media has made it possible for people to kind of mislead. And so, but if you have a well,
but if there's no vacuum, all this
if there's no vacuum from
so
the media team,
something will
exactly.
yes. Will not
You
allow,
see that it's not as if the president has not done anything. He's done a few things which the media team has also failed to carry across to the people. I think if I were the president, I would step down like Mohammed a little bit, and then allow a younger, vibrant spokesperson to take charge. I think they need to do that. So because the people need information, and it's very crucial. We are in an information highway age, and then you can't toy with media management. You can't toy with information.
So 12 months to election. Let's assume all this popularity thing is true. Do you think it can be redeemed? How can they just hit the eye of people?
Well, I think it can be redeemed, but the how, that's a consultancy. And I can't give that. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you for your contributions. Thank you so much for honoring our invitation, Dr. Jendele Hungbo. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much
for doing justice to the topic. We appreciate all those who also listened, wherever you are, those who called, those who sent in messages, those who tweeted. We appreciate every one of you. Tomorrow presents another opportunity for us to do this once again. Join us as early as 7 a.m. all the way to 11. I am Tobi Joseph. Have a wonderful day.
And I'm Dele Ayodo. God bless you all. God bless Nigeria. God bless Rock City.